So, Bonnie Blue. Didn't know about her, literally, at all, until you made the video. Um, but I gotta tell you, it's a bit weird. I'm sure you'd probably think that a little bit there. However, I'd also go like, so these are very inconfident, you know, guys here that, for what it's worth, probably want to have sex with their peers, right? And I don't know if you know about sex therapists. Um, you should look that up though. But it's a real legitimate thing where there are therapists to help you learn how to experience and have good sex. Um, then there's a lot of brochacho, that whole side of things that are like, I had sex with a porn star. She makes like a lot of, money off of this shit, right? And so it's like, it's actually, kind of a cool thing for them to be doing, generally speaking, ish. It depends on the person and their thoughts and feelings. But, it kind of struck me a little odd, okay, where it's like, wait, so she's getting kind of shit on by society for doing this, but like, you know, really the reason why we don't want people getting into porn so early, women or men, it doesn't matter. But it's more women though, for what it's worth, is that later on a bunch of people are gonna hate on them. You know what I mean? They'll use it to be not in a relationship with them, and or possibly not have a job, and they get kind of stuck into the industry. And so like there's that. And so it was kind of weird, like watching her literally talk about how that's exactly what Bonnie is going through, and kind of, yeah, she lost her marriage. I guess she makes a lot of money. Her parents are, oh my god, the parents. Okay, let's address what the parents are. And I'm like, all right, so but then those parents, are they comfortable with that situation? Okay, like did they have a conversation with Bonnie stating that the wife, right, allows for the father to have sex with others? Is that a thing? The answer is we don't know. All right. And so it's like, it's just odd, but it's like they're comfortable with that. They have that knowledge. They had those conversations. That communication occurred with them. Okay. And so, fact of the matter is, we don't know. And if it changed your mind, if they did, and ultimately they were comfortable with that, well, there you go. You don't have a fucking say. It's their fucking life. That's how that works. Same thing, right? For what it's worth, for other things there, right? Like, it's like, wait, so they're getting an education, they're getting some confidence. There's a bit of a harsh reality truth there of, their kids don't have that experience, and they got a cool story. That's an immediate, like, hey, I can do this, during those college years where, like, hey, it's actually somewhat cool, versus later on when they all of a sudden become far more moral or something, or whatever that turns into later on. Same thing with like, oh, but it's like she didn't say cheat, right? She didn't, you know what I mean? Like, sex and relationship, two different things too. Where it's like, sex is a need, that, right? Like, a lot of us kind of treat that as what it is, which is a thing that is very important to a lot of us, either not and or in a relationship. Which relationship, yeah, you could be asexual and just not have any sex, right? You can still just have sex, no relationship. So it's like, hey, is it so bad? Right? Like, what she's doing. If anything, she's hitting those notes, but it's like, you know what, she got Vangelina. You know what I mean? Like, Vangelina, she got your ass. Like, hard. Because she didn't really state, like, to cheat. It sounds like it's misogynistic, but it's like, look, that's an enticement when she's going pleasuring. Like, you go to a strip club, you expect to have them do a little something to try and entice you. Not that I've ever been to a strip club, but, like, I would expect that to be the case. If I wanted, ultimately speaking, to have that service, I would expect them to try and say some shit in that context. Okay? Like, that makes sense to me. That's the entertainment thing. That's the entertainment sector. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, and she's not hurting for people that want to watch. And it's like, oh, the men look shit. And I'm like, well, the whole point is that it's awkward because there's a lot of virgins. That's the crowd. That's why she makes the money. That's the content. So, and it's like, some of them not as like legal wise, I suppose you have an argument, but like not that well sometimes. You know what I mean? Because it's like you don't know, right? But then it's like, wait a second. Do you know what it takes to plan this shit? Like a scene, okay? Like, I have to sit them down. I have to do this. I have to go through the contract. I have to do all this shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's a fake ID. I'm like, you might be able to get that through. There's fucking taxes and shit here. It's pretty unlikely for them to have that actually work. You might have an argument, but if anything, it's like, how the fuck did you? That's a really good ID, bro. That's a pretty damn good fake ID. Just saying. I'd like to know at that point, but like, also, it's like, there's a whole planning situation here. It's not so simple as like you're just gonna go and do the thing, right? It's not some amateur I decided in a spontaneous moment to take out the camera and do the thing. You know what I mean? Right? So like you actually have to know a thing or two to do that. It doesn't matter if you don't know missionary. Who gives a shit, really? Speaking realistically, you know. Because it's like that has nothing to do with sex. That's the whole part of the context of the content. Like it doesn't matter, right? I haven't seen it. I don't want to see it. I don't care about it. I'm just here to like basically play a little bit of a devil's advocate. Like I don't know what to tell you, Vangelina, or anyone that's watching this, but it's like this makes sense to me, right? Like, okay, wait, they had conversations, they had a communication. She knows that they like to make a clown like or carnival horror spectacle show of sex on TV all the time, and people react very poorly to that. So it's like, oh, my parents are comfortable. I know I can get a hell of a lot of money. They're more than just supportive, right? Like they're actively engaged in encouraging me to get this money and have a career and get somewhere, regardless of the fact that like in 20 years time everybody would hate you or love you or whatever the fuck it is, and it doesn't usually matter because if you have money, you can keep your shit going for a long time. And they kind of like, in a lot of ways, are making sure that their child's taken care of. So they're actually really good parents in a way. There, like you don't like that. Like, oh my god, it's so disgusting. This profession that is very legitimate and valid, the sex work. They're not even hurting for the fucking like people that want to watch it. You know what I mean? I'm like, wait a second. Wait. On one hand, it's like, yeah, I know, but not this way though. That's not. I'm not okay. Then go over to there. This is for these people. Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you doing? Like, who are you to start judging things? You know what I mean? Right, but like that's the whole point. That's the game. Like, hey, if it was a Philip DeFranco or other YouTubers that if they could have gotten onto some talk show to then actually get that shit out there, they would. They'd be plugging. They'd be hitting that. That's how they play that. Like that's what she's saying. Vangelina is literally saying that that's the thing. But it's like, look, there's one clip like she has to go down on him, and I'm like, that changed something. Okay, like that got me. Okay, but it's like the context here matters. In what situation before that, and what was the real meaning behind what she said? Okay, so it's like, wait a second. If you've been in a relationship for a while, sometimes you might begrudgingly, but like actually, you're not forcing yourself. You're not being forced onto it. But you want to, what? I didn't want to have sex, but I'm going to go do the sex, right? I'm going to have sex, right? Is that bad? No. A lot of you have done that. If it's forced, then yeah, it's bad. And, well, I mean, the BDSM and King crowd here would say, no, do it anyways, unless I give you my safe word. That kind of thing. But otherwise, it's like, no, it's not bad to like sometimes want to meet your partner's needs, even if you yourself are not really fully into it or feeling it that night or day or whatever it could be. All right, it's a need. We can understand that. But it's like, look, if they had that conversation, Vangelina, if they had that, is that bad? You know what I mean? And it's like, I do believe to be able to maintain a healthy relationship, which is how the phrasing would have to change for the context situation for somebody to perceive it differently, would have to happen. Or it's like, I do believe in a relationship, should probably try and do it anyways. To make sure that they're okay. Because, like, hey, no, I mean, they might still, like, ultimately want to leave you. But that's a whole other relationship thing. And after a while, because when I think about that, I'm like, wait a second. You know, let's look at this. Right? Like, am I stuck with this person in my relationship because I don't like, them, but I'm with them, right? I don't want to have sex with them. I was like, are you feeling down? Oh my God, I'm worried. You know what I mean? And then I decide, right? To just say no, right? Or is it like something else? You know what I mean? Like one of those weird moments where it's like, am I just stuck in a relationship with this person? Like, are they just trying to avoid sex with me, but like they're still with me because I'm comfortable with them now and I'm still with them? Do you want to be in a loveless relationship like that? Like you should probably just leave, but like it's a lot easier to say to leave than it is to leave. You know what I mean? So, and it's like, oh, it's only for right now, and maybe I can make it work. No, you're trying to fix something. Oh no. How many times have you heard those ones, huh? How did they get it? The kids will save it. No, that's not what this is. Not the same thing. They should have just. Maybe I should treat my partner's needs as if they're needs. Do you see what I mean? Maybe I should just like actually put up a little bit of an effort there and show that I care about them a little bit. And it's a sexual care too, because intimacy is a part of a long term relationship that makes it work. Right? That's not a bad thing. But of course, the way the phrasing here is such that I don't know and I don't know the full context. Then also, was that what they probably feel versus what they have to say for a crowd to get eyes on? You know, right? We don't know. And so instead, it's like a rage baity kind of click thing that doesn't really work very well. Right? It's like, oh, they're barely legal. They don't know anything. There's nothing in it. How is it educational? There's no like sexual experience. And then they become a little bit more confident and willing to like talk to somebody, and ask them out. Maybe. It doesn't mean that they know how to be in a relationship or even have sex, but it's just like, well, I could give them a little bit of information, you know what I mean? So there's that. But it's like, oh, the sex therapist would be better. Oh, I'm sure they're everywhere and you have all the money. They got money to do this. They're fucking people that basically want to do it anyways. You're barking up a weird tree to me. It doesn't make much sense, right? And it's like, on either side of that fence, woman or man, doesn't matter. Both of you are sexual, whatever the gender might be, whatever that is. So, like, some of you are going to be that way that want to do it. And it's like, you're shaming them for wanting to be that way, is what it feels like for me. And we're invalidating their actual sexuality. So they're attracted to a porn star messy nature or something, and they get a little money. And I don't know that everybody's being exploited. You know what I mean? Like, we've never ever gone through that when we were our age at that age. Are you insane? That's what I used to look at constantly with people online or even on celebrity fucking bullshit, fucking real world levels, fucking reality TV shows. Like, people know it's not the thing that you think it is. They're not that naive, Vangelina. They're not. So it's weird to suggest that they are literally that level of incompetent naivety. It's just the fact that others will take advantage, like they'll treat them poorly because they view it that way. And that is the not so great thing. But it's like, that's a conversation for why we need to help society grow, not to stop them from doing this. You know what I mean? Like, sex isn't a bad thing, like you were saying. There's nothing wrong with that. All right? And masturbation isn't always going to get you there. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes need is a little bit more, I need more sex than to masturbate one out. Okay? So there's that. And if you know that, then it like turns into this weird thing where it's like, I can kind of see what she's doing. I don't really necessarily. I mean, it might turn her into something. Like she got harsh, right? Towards the for the mothers, it's like, look, this isn't a way to say towards that end, shut up, I don't care. But it's effectively the equivalent of I'll attack you, I have no shame, and also you should be like that thinking me thing, right? But it's like, wait, because I'm paying them to give them an experience and education and how to even have some kind of sex. You know what I mean? But it's like, imagine if sex therapists could be there to do this. They're not usually, and they're not gonna pay you. And there's a status there. She knows that. There's a degree of fame and fortune there. So, like, talk about that. Like, Mia Khalifa and more. Like, some of them want to fuck. And so, like, they know that it's like, yeah, you know? But it's like, they're so young. They're not that young, man. Like, look, they're young, sure, but they're not like a fucking baby here, dude. They have had thoughts and experiences. Get that in your skull, please. They know a little. They know what they're trying to want to do, and they can honestly back out. There's a good amount of time and effort to put in one of those scenes. You gotta remember that. So it's not that way as far as I can really, at least contextually, see it being. But it got Vangelina, if you watch this, to freak, which is the whole point of it. The whole point is that TV side of things to get you to freak and her to basically make you feel like it's a pick-me. Right? But it's like, if you look at it from a context here that makes a lot more sense, but with a different phrasing as to what that is going on, then it doesn't sound the way that it gets presented, because that's shock value. I need you to look, I need you to want, I need you to this, I need you to that. Right? But it's like, and it got you. It got you easy, like all day. It took nothing. You made a whole video about it. Right? So it's like, that's the point, that they're going to play you like that. Right? So that was pretty easy. But it's like, if you argue one way or another, right? And since we don't have the context, okay, we go, they could be doing this, they could be doing that, they could mean this, we don't know about that family life, that's a private thing too, and they don't need to tell you that. And if their friends are actually comfortable and know about that and are accepting of this, but you're not involved, then what does it matter? Except for the fact that a bunch of people might be very not okay with that, which are not involved and they don't matter, but will resultively influence those friends' behaviors and others as well in the situation to go after them, or say that no, they didn't even do that, and they had no guy, and they just made it happen. Right? You know what I mean? Like, there's a problem there I have, because it's like very easy for a bunch of people to go along with a lie because they're more comfortable with one particular view. See what I mean? And it's like, they won't get challenged easily, even in court, and like the court of public opinion would just ream them out. So like, you'd basically be stuck trying to prevent effectively that thing, or even be able to prove one way or the other. There's a reason why a lot of people like me just go, yeah, I don't know what I can trust here, and unless you've got recordings of one thing, it's really hard at this point for me to want to side one way or another. You know what I mean? Because I know for a fact that a big group of people that might ruin your career or your future as a direct result and consequence of effectively how you feel about one thing or another I'm sexually doing or whatever else that you're not even involved in, leads you to then change your behavior towards me in a negative way. Of course, right? I don't necessarily want to deal with that, so I'll, bow down and tell you what you want to hear. That kind of thing. But it's like, no, that's what they're, because they're rich or something. Right. And a crowd is not similar with the opportunities presented. Listen here, you little shit. See what I mean? This changes my thought process on this, and even possibly you as I look deeper into you. And I'm like, yes, I have never had to deal with people like yourself before and have to help them understand where they might be getting something incorrect. You know what I mean? Sort of a thing. But it's like, I'm okay with sex positivity, but a lot of people say something like that and then they don't do this work. You know what I mean? Which is rough. It's hard. It's hard to deal with something like that, right? It's just like, hey, that would mean that a bunch of people don't, and then I'm not immediately going after the paralegal men or guys or boys or whatever. And it's like, it's already been a crowd forever. If anything, it's an untapped market on the men side that's been wanting the mommies for a while, and that's been growing in that scene, in that sector for content creation. So that hasn't really changed there. They're not hurting for people. So the majority here are usually quite a bit more comfortable behind the doors that are closed. Not so much the other side, in public. Which is the whole weirdness of looking at people that act like they're morally superior and pretend that they're not into certain things publicly, and then choose very much to do the opposite. And then they see people like myself who are unabashedly me, or themselves, really, and don't give a shit. And I'll tell you right to your face, I like some of this shit. And there's reasons for it, and there's context and more that change that, which usually makes people that want to immediately just not able to do that, and then they get defensive against they themselves, which is kind of the whole point. Like, what would you say to a porn star, let's say it was a woman, right, that said something similar to a man that wanted to put her down? What happens when it's a man and they're not a scumbag? What are you going to do? I hope those kind of clear up some of my thoughts, at least on this. It doesn't really change much about a lot of the rest of this in terms of like some of the other stuff that she's talked about. And let me pause this, give me a second. 158 men in 2 weeks with the help of the mom. I'm like, yeah, well, are we slut shaming? I don't think we should be doing that. And then, the mom helps clean up. Well, she's supportive. So, like, it's just some fluids and moving some stuff around and cleaning the place up. Like, I know you're not comfortable with it. I know you wouldn't find it appropriate, but that's neither here nor there. That doesn't mean anything for them and their family situation and what they're okay with. That doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how that really works. Like, I wouldn't be, and I matter. You need to listen to what I think and say about this, and that's the only right way to do this. And all, like, what is this going to turn into, like, other things? For like how you're allowed to have sex, the only ways you're allowed to have a relationship, the only ways you're allowed to have a job, the only legitimacy and validity as a person. Like, where's this go to? I have to try and get this one done pretty quickly here. The misogynistic or pick me thing that she's trying to suggest that this is, it really depends on how it's phrased and the context going on, and that's what that is. Like, quite literally, that's all that will be. So, like, depending on ultimately what they're really feeling, and then you have to actually believe that. Which, if you don't ever want to change your thoughts or feelings on something, then, well, yeah, no, it wouldn't matter what new information comes in. like this vaccination information that says it doesn't cause autism. You know? Like, it sounds really rather simple and similar to me. Right? Like, no, you like this stuff. Oh. Can't separate fantasy and reality. Well, can you? Right? So, I don't know. Yeah, they should be talking, like I said earlier, to be fair. But, like, okay. How many of you are good at having good conversations in your relationship and feel comfortable with bringing things up that you might believe are something that could possibly end your relationship? I never. I do. I. It's all easy to say, not exactly as easy to do. So what I tell people is like, why don't you treat them like a human? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Please remember that people are mistake-ridden messes, that all of us are trying our best often to get something figured out and done, and are often very afraid. That's how we are. So, I don't know. I don't know what happened with the LinkedIn thing. I don't know, really, honestly. And if the context ultimately changes things with how she phrases things, like, that's out there public stuff versus, like, what it could be, what they really meant. You know what I mean? Right? Which can obviously change things. And that's another side of that problem, right? Like, hey, this is like, I need to get this shock value. This is like the old school 1990s, like, was it the guy? Fuck. Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer would have been that guy. Yeah. And this just feels like another version that everybody's individually doing at this point to get people to just go for it and that kind of thing. And everybody kind of got burnt the hell out on that. And which is probably how I think Vangelina like came across this and just got burnt, was already probably burnt out, to be fair, and just couldn't and had to make the video. You know what I mean? So, like, because if you do it right, like you do like that work, it's like, does it change anything, right? Like, cause does it fall into the categories of like you can really think it's one way or another and believe this, right? It's kind of hard. So I don't know. On one hand, it's like, oh, it's just the predatory nature of the entertainment industry in a nutshell. But at least she's got her family and actually seems to have support network around her and will probably really greatly benefit her over time. You know, well, she's making some good money, and I hope she makes good investments because most likely people will go after her like forever because she had sex on camera. Like, what the fuck is that? It's so stupid, you know. But then it's it's the same thing, right? For women coming out of school, right? And they get treated worse. Honestly, I think the men are more protected later on in that life that they'll have, but you never know. Truthfully, that could really put a severe damper on their relationship if like a woman decides to suddenly say that it was not acceptable that a porn star that had sex with all these other men had sex with them, you know, could really make it bad. Like, it's good initially, but like really realistically what we're talking about is a bunch of people that have a dumb view in mind of things and don't treat it like it should be, and we're worried about that. But it's like, you can't change them. Don't try to. You can't. You can give them information, and if they take it up and decide to use it, sure, correctly, by the way. But if they don't, it wouldn't matter. You know, like, they're not really going to do it. So that's where I kind of probably have to leave it at this point. I think, like, overall, you're right. Like, you shouldn't really, like, have that view-ish, right? Like, hey, remember, you do have to put in some work to maintain a relationship, right? But, like, on the other side, it's also like, wait a second, how much are you letting, and are you comfortable? Like, let's have that conversation first and foremost. Do we need the safe word? Do we need to do the, like, are you wanting to, like, more of a free use situation? Is this more of that kind of like, type of BDSM play of some sort, right? You know, is it that you're comfortable with me going and doing that? Mm? Do we have to give a shit about anyone else's thoughts or feelings? I mean, that crowd, for what it's worth, it's probably going to be all up in like there for what it's worth for wanting the daughter to be that way. You know what I mean? And getting that money, right? Hey, you get your friends for that, dad. That's what it is. But like, hey, honestly, there should be a little bit of a conversation to make that a little bit less bad, I think, in a way, if that's a thing that they're comfortable with. Like, what is this going on there, honestly? Like, who's really making the rules there other than the people that are involved and kind of can understand what's happening? So, eh, that's them. Should we get involved? No. But also, generally, I think the way we should get involved is for sure having not just the, theory, so you get to hear it. Sometimes you need a little practical too to really kind of get rid of the fear. Like, a lot of you got the theory, then you had to practice on a learner's permit before you were able to drive your car, right? Well, sure, it'd be nice if you could try and do that a little bit with like a relationship or maybe some sex here for some of you. It'd be nice if we could stop treating it as if it's the world's most important. It's religion, your flowers deflowered, all of the stem, you will never be able to, whatever the fuck version they go with. Seems like, to be honest, because I'm not a big fan of any of those things. Like, that shit's stupid as fuck. Like, your worth is not entailed into your sex at all. And if anything, like, it'd be good if we could remove like this weird insanity of importance about it and this obvious insecurity and hang up a lot of society seems to have about it. It's very odd, you know? But, so yeah,